Hello, I'm Faye Waterman. This is Talking All Things Business. And my guest today is Peter Raja. And Peter is in real estate and has been for the last 20 years and is now an owner of his own business. In the last 3 years, he's taken up ownership of Jim's Real Estate. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure. Now, Peter, let's talk a little bit about where you come from and what got you involved in real estate in the first place.
Yeah, sure thing, Faye. So look, I didn't always start off in real estate. I've been quite ambitious since I was a young little tack. I've always wanted to somehow have my own business. Now, not sure what that was going to look like going forward, but always had that inkling, always had that itch to manage and run my own business ever since I was probably 15 or 16 years of age. Now, again, like most people, wasn't certain what that business direction would be or what that would look like in the future. But I figured as long as I plant that seed now to see what I can work towards, and I'll try and strive to achieve those goals moving forward. So my career really started off in hospitality when I was in my early days, 14 years and 7 months, I think was a legal age when you can to work in any industry. Now, I started off with, like most young people, in the fast food retail environment, which is, in this case, I'm going to mention their organisation, which is Happy Jacks. Now, Happy Jacks taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about customer service. It taught me discipline. It taught me structured routine. It taught me standardised. It taught me how to be a good leader growing up. It taught me how to be a better person. And that I took away later in my life, and that instilled in me a level of confidence as far as customer service and expectations. That's what I'm trying to deliver today within my business. And it sort of stemmed back all those many, many years ago, and those lovely good old days of working as a teenager.
Yes, remember those days.
And so just, I suppose that's where I started off with, and I sort of stepped up into sort of, I got a bit over and tired working late nights and weekends and public holidays, all those long and tedious hours. So I wanted something a bit more routine, and I was looking for a Monday to Friday type role, specifically 9 to 5, if I could find something in those lines. And I was very fortunate enough to work for an organisation in Dandenong, in the sort of warehousing manufacturing industry. And I was there for a 10-year period, did many roles from customer service to manufacturing to production to warehousing and distribution to logistics management. And then after that, I sort of grew or outgrew that organisation from a skill set, because I've always had a desire to learn and grow and fill my brain with as much information as I can about new things. And I wanted to expand my wings a little bit more. And I felt my current employment at that point in time was I suppose that cage wasn't big enough for my wings to expand out, so I made the move to another corporate. In this case, it was BlueScope Steel, where I worked for just under 10 years. Now, BlueScope Steel being a fairly well-known organisation in Australia as well as overseas, there was various roles within that organisation that I was able to learn off: supply chain, logistics, short-term forecasting, manufacturing operations, sales and operations. And after that, I suppose during that period of time, like most of your listeners, Faye, you're sitting at your office, you're sitting in your desk, and you're asking yourself, I could be doing something better with myself. I could be doing, something great, and I can't become wealthy by being an employee. What am I doing? What am I doing? And eventually, that led to a series of other things, which is my passion in real estate.
Yeah, when you sit there and start thinking about that and thinking, you don't want to work for someone anymore, because what you're actually doing is making money for them, when you want to be able to have your own business and start building your own financial wellness and your own world, instead of doing it for somebody else, going to work and doing it for somebody else. So you had the actual initiative to step up and step out and say, okay, let me get this experience, but let me grow from this and let me see what else I can do from this. So then you've had lots and lots of experience, from from hospitality into warehousing and building up your skills within that area, and then going into the blue scope area as well and creating more skills, so building more and more. But there was always this drive inside you to do something better for you and your family, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. And many of your listeners have that same inkling, that feeling, but they don't act on it. And I was very fortunate enough to act on it and make that leap of faith. Whereas most people don't. They get comfortable in their environment, and I've seen it through 20 years of my lifetime, where people get stuck in an environment and they think it's it and refuse to make them.
That's their lot in life, and they become comfortable with it, and they look around and see others doing things and wonder how they do it, but they never. I suppose it might be a fear inside them that it stops them from doing that, or is it that they're just happy doing what they're doing?
I guess for me, Faye, it was a fear, and I can definitely relate to a lot of people out there. It was a fear that stopped me from making a move. The regular paycheck that I was getting on a day and weekly basis was far more lucrative, and was able to sort of put away the pain of having to work for someone else and just getting the weekly paycheck versus stepping out into the unknown and building your character and the resilience that you have. So going back 20 years, I bought my first property when I was 21 years of age, Faye, and that kind of was a catalyst of being interested in real estate. So for many, many years after that, I was involved in buying and selling and developing and subdivisions and planning on my own, sort of more like a for sale by owner type setup. It's like, again, I did not like the environment or the culture that the traditional real estate agency promoted at that point in time, and I never saw myself ever becoming a real estate agent in any form, any way, purely because of that stigma that was attached to that. So I wanted to be able to change it and do things a little different. So hence, I basically just helped family and friends, bought property on my own, more for sale by owner type setup. It wasn't until probably about 3 years ago, so 4 years ago, I made the decision to step out of the corporate world and take that leap of faith and start my own business. And I started off with another fixed fee model a number of years back, and for various reasons that did not take off as much as I would have liked to. And I was hit with I suppose, the $1 million question that people sort of think that if I tried it, it didn't work, I feel like a failure, it's not the right thing for me, where do I go from here? And I encourage people who are probably feeling the same way today, regardless of their circumstances. It's like someone who's a little bit unhealthy, a little bit overweight, and saying that they ran around the block once and didn't lose weight, so they're going to give up.
And it's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it, that you're saying this, because you've got to step out of your comfort zone. You've got to think outside the square. You've got to have the courage and be brave enough to step out and say, I'm going to have a go at this. And if you fall over, you can pick yourself up. And if you keep falling over, you pick yourself up. You look at all the people, Einstein and everything that's been developed through the years. Those people weren't a success overnight. They were successful, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to get you to where you are today. And it's not easy. It's a 24/7 when you start your own business. It's not an overnight success, although there's a few people that think you become an overnight success, but they don't actually see what goes on in the background for you to be able to achieve what you achieve. And yeah,
look, it's one of those, you've hit the nail on the head there, Faye. It is, people don't see the blood, sweat and tears behind the facade. And it's also important to have that facade, because you certainly want to promote what you want to become, not what you are feeling right now. And it's a very important lesson that I learned earlier on, that if you don't give self-employment its due respect, it will just chew you up and spit you out like there is no tomorrow. There was a bit of a lull period where I wasn't sure what to do. Did I make the wrong move stepping into real estate? Do I have what it takes? You question yourself. do I have the skill set? Now, Faye, I'm very well educated. I've got a degree in business and economics. I'm a fully licensed real estate agent. Plus, I've got 20 plus of years worth of experience in people management and hospitality and customer service. So all those skills in my head for that moment, and I guess, wondering, is this the right thing for me? Was sort of thrown out the door, but someone actually reminded me, and that was my lovely wife, Sarah. She said, "Pete, you are smart, you are intelligent, you are motivated. When you don't know something, you go out and find a way to do it." And those small words of encouragement was all I really needed to go get back on the horse and say, "You know what? I have all these skills and they're all transferable in the industry that I'm about to go into."
And what she said to you was priceless, because that gave you the courage to step up and step out again. And that's what you need. You need the support behind you. You need to be able to ask for help, and you need people to believe in you as well as you believing in you.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely crucial and pivotal to the success of any business or business owner that you have the right support network behind you. And in my case, it was my beautiful wife, Sarah, who gave me that boost that I needed when I was feeling flat. Because most people go out into the business world not realizing the impact that's going to have on them, their partners and their children and their family around them. So you've got to have that mindset that to say, yes, I will fall over. Yes, I will get back up. Yes, I will still try to remain as positive as I possibly can. And that's hard at times. It's really hard when the cash flow is tight.
It's very difficult, isn't it? And it's an on-flow effect, because it's not just you, as you just said, that is affected by you going out into business when you've had a comfortable income coming in weekly or fortnightly or monthly or whenever it is, and then all of a sudden it ceases because you are starting up a new business and you're creating something that you're passionate about. But you have to have and know that you have the support of those people close to you, and also people that you can call on to ask for help when you need help.
Absolutely, Faye, and that is spot on. And I guess it takes a certain type of individual to step out into the business world. It's certainly not for everybody, and I understand that, and I get that. One thing that I've learned about stepping into the business world is that basically what I believe and what I want to provide is that I'm ferociously passionate, and that ferocious passionate is what drives me on a day-to-day basis to be able to service my clients and help them in ways that not purely from just a transactional point of view, but above and beyond. Classic example is at the moment we've got a listing coming up, Faye, that our client has hit a bit of a financial roadblock. The front yard and the backyard wasn't done when the house was built a number of years ago, so this is about three-year-old house. Most agents, good agents, will provide some solutions, guidance, and find a way to make it work. One of the things that we did differently was to say, hey, because of the gyms group and the gyms network that we have access to, the other domestic services that gyms provide, which is the other blue collar ones like your mobbing, your cleaning, your plumbing.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It complements very well towards the white collar professional division that gyms have as far as real estate, financing, bookkeeping, finance, etc. So we tap into these resources, and we got a group in. We did the front yard. We transformed it pretty much like a backyard. It's zero cost to the owner, only because we know what it's like to be in that position and what the desired outcome is, and we can't get those outcomes by leaving it as it is. Now, most agents are quite lazy. They'll just say, look, we recommend the front yard and the backyard be landscaped, but however, we're going to leave it entirely in your hands. If you can fork out the funds for it, do what you need to do. Tell me when you're ready to list, and we'll stick a signboard out the front and we'll promote ourselves. And that's not the way I want it.
That is a pretty unique thing to have, isn't it? When someone's in a bind and they can't move forward, and they have to sit where they are, but they can't do anything. They feel stuck and everything else because they don't have the finances to finish off what needs to be done to entice people to want to come and have a look at the property in the first instant. But then you have all these resources on the side from Jim's Real Estate and everything that they do in all their franchises to be able to give them that boost to sell and move on in life. What confidence was that for them?
Look, it was 100% a huge morale boost. It's difficult in the current day and age to be able to leverage off your networks. And we always talk about in business, what is a value add? What does it mean for a client to have a value add? Now, unfortunately, in real estate, regardless whether you use Jim's Real Estate or whether you use one of those other well-known brands, purely from a transactional side of things, which is getting your house listed, property description, listing it online, brochures, open for inspections, negotiations, contract signing and settlement. That is a transactional part of the real estate transaction that won't change regardless of who you use. That's a fixed component of the real estate transaction.
Yes.
Now, beforehand, it's going to be your point of difference, and what happens afterwards, it's also going to be your unique point of difference. And one of the things, again, I like to push forward is my ferociousness, passionate about customer service and helping people. I think that's my calling in life, is to be able to help people. I get a bit of a buzz out of being able to help someone, whether it's big or small, and that's something that I strive for, and that's who I am as a person. And that's what my 20 years of working the corporate lifestyle, starting in Hungry Jack's, working those late hours, working in real estate has taught me, is that you've got to give, not just take on one hand, because the reward is when you give.
So true. You really said something that's really important. It's important to be able to give and not expect anything in return, because it will come back tenfold somewhere else, somewhere along the line. Not necessarily from the people that or what you did may not come directly from that, but it will come from somewhere. But giving and not expecting to receive, because that's a transaction, that's a trade-off. It is about giving and allowing people to, do whatever, and not have someone expecting. And there's a lot of that around. They say they give something, but they expect something in return. It doesn't work like that, does it?
No, absolutely. And what I've sort of learned that's quite unique and different, what I tell people is when they say, oh, why should I use Jim's Real Estate? And I mentioned what I've said to you before about the transactional process and the element of it. Regardless of who you use, you'll get that same methodical approach and systematic approach to selling real estate. However, there are these unique point of differences, such as coordinating your landscaping. We provide complimentary building and pest inspection reports to all our homeowners. And a lot of people say, well, what, the buyers can just go and get a building and pest report. Well, I say no, because I like to be a little bit in control of what's happening, control the football, as one of my colleagues used to say. By getting a report for the vendor tells me two things. I want to be 100% sure that the house has a clean bill of health. I want to know what the issues are, and I want to be able to be in a position to suggest recommendations to rectify those problems, and then we can price it accordingly. There's no point giving the buyer full control and leverage of the property at the very end of the sale process, and trying to negotiate on a few faults that may have sort of popped up in the building inspection report. I like to have information up front. That's really important and critical to my process.
That is amazing, because that doesn't normally happen, does it? That you have this information up front. It's usually done after the sale, or when, the offer's been made and there's a contract on it, and that contract can go one way or the other if the building isn't in the right condition, or there's something that's not happening that is right. So therefore you eliminate a lot of that, a lot of costs for the purchaser and for the seller, the person that's selling the property. So it eliminates a lot of stress, because when you're dealing in real estate and when you're dealing with people, 99% of the time you're dealing with people's emotions. Those who are investing in properties, probably less emotion, but those that are investing in a property to live in and make it their home and everything, that is, all they're selling is an emotional time in their life, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. It's such an emotional roller coaster, and it's really critical to have the right people on board who can provide assistance and guidance. Now, most people that I know of, and myself included in the past, have always, when it's come time to sell my property or sell a property, they'll basically Google 3 or 4 agents, maybe 5 or 6, depending on who they are, and they'll call them in and line them up 1, 2, 3, 4, and do a bit of an interview type scenario to see what each of them can offer. Now, as I mentioned before, from a purely transactional point of view, there is an element of it that does not change regardless of which agency or individual that you use. It would be like me saying to you, Faye, look, I would really like you to drive me to the airport on 8 o'clock Tuesday morning, and I'm going to get quotes from 6 other people to drive me to the airport at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. Now, ultimately, every single one of those people, if they're smart enough, will use the Monash to get to the airport. They're not going to deviate via Princess Highway or through the back roads where it's going to take longer, more traffic jam. Predominantly, you'd expect them to take the Monash. Hence, with real estate, Domain, and other small affiliate websites are the place to be to promote and list properties, and that's where most of the buyers go to. So that transactional element does not change. Again, like I said, the value added things like building pest inspection, the expertise advice, which I can give because I've been in those shoes before. I know what it's like to have an agent come in and tell me that this house is worth this much, what they can offer and what they can do for me and what I should do. And I know what I expect, and I know what sells houses, and I know how I want to sell a specific house. What do I need to do? Take away the transactional side. You mentioned that it's people's emotions in place, so I'm very mindful of that. And one thing I try not to do, Faye, when I'm talking to people, when I go into people's home and give an appraisal, I'm usually a very sharpshooter in the sense that, look, I can sit here and talk to you about how many houses that I've sold, and I can show you in my brochure how many gold star awards I've got. But at the end of the day, that's irrelevant for your property because your property is unique and it's different to the other properties that I've sold. So let's talk about what's unique about your property and how I can extract that into the limelight and put a spotlight on it for that attract that potential buyer. It's a game of fishing. You need the right bait, you need the right lure, because traditionally houses sell themselves.
Yeah.
Real estate agents are pretty much a conduit between the buyer and seller and the selling process.
Yeah, you're kind of facilitating it, aren't you? And looking at it, and there are certain buyers for every property. There's not a buyer for every property, but there's certain buyers for each property, depending on where it is, what it is, how big it is, how small it is, what features it has. There's a buyer for every property. But, and it is an emotional roller coaster that some people are going on, because you mention uniqueness. You sit down and you talk to them about, I could tell you about all these things and what I've done and everything else, but let's get down to the nitty gritty and talk about this property, what's unique about it, how can we make it, that someone there's a buyer out there for you, and, get rid of all the stress. It's stressful enough without anything else. So, your uniqueness is there's several things that you can add to what you do, which is unique to your business, and that's incredible. It's fantastic.
And being an independent business owner as well, Faye, it is absolutely critical that my efforts show out and showcase the property, because ultimately that's my bread and butter, to put food on the table for my 2 very hungry boys who can eat the house down at the moment, and my little girl who are always very hungry at the moment. They're growing so fast and they eat constantly. So I need to be able to go out and provide for them. And again, support network is absolutely important. I don't think I could do what I'm doing today without my beautiful wife supporting me 100%. Another great lesson that I've learned in business, Faye, and I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners and viewers will agree, is that you can't rely on family and friends when you're starting out in business to get your business off the ground. No. They will disappoint you, they will fail you, they won't have any trust in you, they'll question whether you've got the skills and ability, because for whatever reason, all of a sudden, the faith in you gets lost for whatever reason. And I've found that throughout my journey, that I have butted head against these exact scenarios. And I said to my wife, let's just wash our hands and let's just focus on people who want to use my services because of what I can offer, because of the skill experience that I can bring to the table.
And that's quite incredible, because you can't rely on your family. They'll always be there, but to support you in something that you have a passion about and they don't understand is totally different. So therefore the doubt will come in with them, and they'll think, you know, I call people naysayers, and they say, oh, what are you doing that for? That's a waste of time, etc., etc., etc. And your friends and family, and I have so many conversations about all these types of things, and you have to rely on yourself. You have to have a partner that's definitely going to support you, so that you know that they're 100% behind you. And then you have to have, you know, they always say surround yourself with the 5 people that are like-minded, so that they can say, yeah, okay, think about this, support you, so that you can keep on track with what you're passionate about and you know what you're doing, and build that credibility and grow as a person and a business.
Someone, I can't remember who it was, one of my mentors earlier on in my teens, said to me, Peter, don't tell big dreams to small-minded people.
Absolutely.
They will crush you right there and then. So that gave me a level of understanding around what do I need to do differently. There are a lot of real estate agents out there, and there's a lot of good ones and a lot of average ones. How does one find the good one? Well, ultimately it just comes down to 2 things. Most people, when they're looking at real estate agents, try to find if they click on a personal level. That personality relationship, whether they're personable. Yes, these are all good traits to have, but you're not paying someone to be your friend. And I think that's the number one fundamental mistake that most homeowners make.
They're not your friend. They're absolutely not your friend. They're there to do a business. They're there to do a job and to do it properly. And you know that you can have trust in them, that they're going to do the right thing by you. They're not your friend.
Correct. And I speak to a lot of owners who have delisted an agent for various reasons, and you sort of ask them, what went wrong? What was the reason behind, you know, you not selling your property? What happened? And they always say, oh, look, you know, we thought she was really nice, or he was really nice, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. And you know what? And I always tell them, it's not about trying to find that personable, relatable person. Yes, those things are important. At the end of the day, you are hiring them to do a specific task and a specific job. Find someone who is going to be able to get the job done for you. How do you identify that? Unfortunately, it's going to be trial and error. It's just like trying to find that perfect partner. You go on a few dates, you go out with someone for a year or 2, and if it doesn't work out, you part ways and you go on to the next one. And that's how it is. Unfortunately, there is no silver bullet to say this is the best agent here or she's the best agent there, because the best agent here for this person may not be the right person for this person over here. So it's got to find that happy balance.
Exactly.
And I really want to tell your viewers that it's really critical to make sure that a lot of people sort of go, well, I'd rather trust the known brands like the current ones. And I always tell them, look, is it more important to trust a known brand with an inexperienced person behind it, or would you rather trust an inexperienced brand like Jim's Real Estate, experience behind it with someone like yourself? And it's really critical that they get the understanding of what that person is, because most often than not, in the early days, I'm not sure if it happens so much now, but the person who comes and does the appraisal with you and ends up listing your property is not the one coordinating the open for inspections. It's usually the office staff or the office trainee who's doing that coordination of the flow of people coming through. And that tells me that you've just hired someone to do half the job. Another fundamental mistake people make is that an agent comes in and says, hey, look how many properties I've got listed for sale today. You know, I always tell them, if an agent has more than 4 properties listed, they're not doing their job effectively and productively, because I personally can't handle more than 4 properties and split my 100% care and quality of service that I provide to more than 4 properties at a given time. I want to be able to make sure that, kind of like that the Jerry Maguire scene where Tom Cruise is on the phone to Cuba Gooding Jr. and the phone's lighting up like a Christmas tree with all the other players, and they use him as an agent, but he's hung on to this one individual who's causing him grief. But, you know, you got to focus on one person and give them 100% focus and attention that they deserve, as opposed to them.
And that is so true, and it's in any business. You focus on one thing and do it well, and then if you decide to add in anything else, other products and services, then you can do that once you get this one thing up and running and doing it well. And it's so true that real estate agents aren't your friends. They're there to do a job. Yes, you need to have to trust them so that they're going to do the job properly. But there was a point taken just a minute ago that you said that once the agent comes in and signs you up and does all the paperwork and everything, that's left to the administration to do the promotion, to coordinate all the open homes, and things like this. The agent actually doesn't do that, but you get to do all that, which is a huge task. And that's why you say you can't manage any more than 4 properties at a time, because you can't spread yourself that thin. So that is your uniqueness, to be working with these people from beginning to end, and maybe even after. And I've heard stories about, people having friends in real estate who they used to sell their houses through, and then there's someone else that's come along and proven themselves to be better because they have, a better ability to see within what is actually needed. And they've lost those people have given away their buying to that new person that's come along, because they get a feeling that they know what they're doing and they're honest, and they're going to support them all the way through.
Absolutely, 100%. I think that's pretty much the golden goose, so to speak. It's just, as long as you're passionate about customer service, which is always the underlying foundation of any business, I think you can do your success on that. I'll be honest with you, Faye, for my role, I'm also the regional franchisor for the outer southeast region of Jim's Real Estate. Part of my role is to find agents for recruitment who want to start their own agencies. I've been having a bit of difficulty because 2 reasons. The market has been the worst it's ever been in the last 40 years, so there's that element of it.
Yep.
There's also the other element of, we talked about fear. There are agents out there who are gun agents. They're really good with people. They're doing the listings, but they're not getting the reward for it. And there are opportunities out there, but I think they're maybe a little bit closed-minded as to see what brand they want to align themselves with. And you know what, Mr. Jim doesn't have the most prettiest face, but it's and a lot of your listeners, I'm pretty sure they're all smart and intelligent people. That's why they listen to your show, Faye. They would have heard the 80-20.
Yes.
And I always tell people that it's 80% personality, which is you, and it's 20% brand. That's going to make you move forward and go forward. So regardless of what colour uniform you're wearing today, people will see that 80% and then focus on that 80%. Whereas most agents sort of focus on what colour I'm wearing today and whether that will give me the boost that I need. And they kind of lose focus, because one of our unique point of difference from being an independent franchise business owner, Faye, is that you as an agent get to keep 100% of your commission. So let's just say you're working for a brand name right now, you get 4 listings a month and you're an agent. Let's just say your total commission for that month is say $20,000. You give away at least 50% of that to your principal. And you may have some assistants and some office stationery that you give away. So you may end up with, roughly about 40% of your 50% that's left over. Whereas if you did the same thing with Jim's Real Estate, not only do you get 100% of the commission, but there's an element of working smarter, not harder, because you would just need to do 2 sales a month to make up for what you're doing when you're doing 4 sales a month over here. So there is that added advantage of our brand, my support, that I'll provide, individuals who want to come on board and become a franchisee under the Southeast region. And look, I would love to have a chat with any of the people who are looking at a career in real estate, because it is such a good career. The opportunity to help people solve that problem, to go out there and find solutions for clients, because it's not, again, just purely transactional. Yeah. There's other elements that go with it. And I'd love to have a chat with people who may be looking at potentially making a move, just not sure what that direction is. I didn't know what that direction was, and at least have a bit of a conversation to find out more information, what's needed. More than happy to have a chat.
It's interesting, isn't it? It is developing that know, like, and trust. It's having an understanding of what's expected of you to provide the best service you can. And people don't buy business, they buy people. So they buy you first, and then they do whatever transaction is that comes after. And it's really important that you're personable, that you're, they feel comfortable having a conversation with you, and feel like they can ask you any question that they need to ask, regardless of what that question is. And I always say there's no such thing as a dumb question. It's all about feeling comfortable and creating that environment for them to want to do business with you. Now, Peter, can you give 3 tips? Now I'm going to go one side. 3 tips to someone who wants to sell a house. What sort of things do they need to consider? Things like, looking for an agent, what the house needs to look like, and, really, really educating them to understand that it can be an easy process, even if it is an emotional process. Then on the other side, I want you to say, give 3 tips on if someone wants to become an agent, what sort of things do they need to consider?
Sure. My first 3 tips, Faye, around selling the property. A lot of people, obviously, the $1 million question is, when is the right time to sell the property? They always ask, is it spring, is it winter, is it summer? My advice to them is that the best time to sell a property is whenever you are ready to do so. The property what needs to happen to the property is you need to make sure it's presentable. Declutter your house. Once you've made the decision that you are going to put your house in the market, you need to detach yourself from that emotional connectivity and say, this is no longer my house. I'm going to start packing away my little knickknacks, streamlining your rooms to make it as less messy as possible, pack things into boxes, put them into storage or into the garage, clean it up. Then let's have a look at, if you've engaged the right agent, they'll provide some guidance. And in my case, I will say, let's do a building and pest inspection. Let's to find out what nitty-gritty things are out there, the known unknowns, so to speak. And let's just target those to get them rectified. So when we do price a property, or when the agent decides to price a property, it can be realistic and in line with the market expectations. The other tip is to always not get too emotionally involved in the transaction, because you've engaged an expert in the field to handle that aspect of it. I find that a lot of owners automatically become the expert in the trade because they've read a few articles, have seen what the auction clearance rates are like, so therefore they're an expert in the field. It's not the case. If you engage someone to provide you with a service, leave it in their capable hands. You can ask them questions, you can ask them feedback, you can ask them weekly feedback, daily feedback, whatever tips you fancy. But that open line of communication is important to the success of the campaign. So that the discussion that you two might have with the agent is, ask questions like, yes, I understand the market was a bit flat today. Did we get the desired number of people visiting today that we wanted to? Instead of saying, I want to have 15 people come to the house today, it doesn't matter if you have 500 people come to a house. All it takes is that one buyer who's fallen in love with the house. So you really want to be really strategic in your marketing to get that one buyer. Now, I mentioned the analogy before about fishing. You've got to have the right fishing line, the right bait, the right lure to attract that one buyer that we're looking for this house. So this is the pre-sale consultation. It's absolutely important to find out as much about the house, and most importantly, why did they buy the house? What made them fall in love with the house? Can we use any of that going forward in our marketing campaign? Secondly, what are other things that most, homeowners need to look for when they're putting their house in the market? Is that not to get too involved in the house down the road that looks exactly the same, sold for a higher price. I mentioned to you before, every house is unique. Every house is different, so you can't compare. Yes, there are elements of it that are similar, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, double garage, garden. Yes, that's a stock standard, but there are elements of a house that is personalised to that individual. Therefore, over here, it would have got an extra 50K for whatever reason, doesn't necessarily mean that your house is now automatically worth $50,000 more than what it should be worth. So just be mindful and realistic, because in the current market, the unrealistic expectations are the ones that cause people to be set up for failure. If a good agent can just give them the right advice and the right pricing, you're not going to see those pricing adjustments or decreases, they call it, because if you priced it accordingly to the market, and look, again, I've got a degree in economics, Faye, so I talk a little bit holistic. A lot of agents say that it's I'm the expert in your local area. Yeah, it's great to be an expert in your local area, but you need to know what's happening over here and how that's going to compound over here. You need to have that holistic overview of what's happening in the marketplace, not just a specific pocket of the area that you're trying to promote to your clients.
Yeah.
And look, unfortunately, humans are like sheep. They want to be made to feel warm and fuzzy. So when you tell them, hey, I'm the local expert in your area, I've been doing this for a very long time, they kind of feel warm and fuzzy. That sort of sets a tone for the rest of the conversation. But reality has it, you can't argue against factual data and what's happening outside the bubble that most people live in. So it's important to get the right advice from the right people. Talk to different agents, but I wouldn't recommend talking to more than 3 or 4, because again, find some referrals that your colleagues, your friends, or your family may have used someone. Get them on board, have that discussion, but most importantly, get me on board as well, because I can provide you with a wealth of information. Now, I can't recall your second question, Faye.
Okay, my second question, just give one tip, because we've got to go. Give one tip on anyone who is actually wanting to join a real estate group.
To join the real estate world right now, it's a little bit tough. The market is fluctuating. China-US trade wars are impacting a lot of the world economics. But real estate is a wonderful, wonderful career. Align yourself with the right agency, with the right people, with the right mentor who can guide you and develop you, because at the end of the day, I want my people to be better than I am in my business, because you need to elevate them, not keep them in an environment where they're just going to bring you regular income. So you need to find someone who's going to support you and guide you and grow you. One of the things I do is I want to make sure that if someone approaches me who's only held an agent's rep certification, is that I want to put a pathway in place for them to go out and get their full license as soon as practical. That's important, because it gives them a level of independence and they're not tied down to an agent to work under a specific principle. So the type of person that's going to be well suited to the real estate industry, you know what, if you've got passion, if you've got pizzazz, you've got the desire to give the customer the best service you possibly can, the rest of it, it's on the job learning, because those transferable skills really what makes this business work. The rest of it really transactional, mainly CRM driven, but ultimately someone who is not scared to go out there and do what it takes, because you know what, like I said, you can't run around the block once and expect to lose weight and then get disappointed when you don't. You've got to keep at it. So true. Great tips. Remove the emotion, allow the agent to do their job because they know exactly what they're doing, and don't compare the house down the street with yours, because they're all unique, even though they may have similarities and everything like that. And if you want to be an agent and you have a passion for it, just get into it and start it, and find someone that you can, work with, that will nurture you and get you to the place you want to be. Now, Peter, how can they get in contact with you? Sure. So they can just call the Jim's 131546 number and ask for Peter in real estate, and they'll patch you directly to myself. Or if you don't mind, Faye, they can contact you directly and get my details off you as well. Yep. Or it's my email address is peter.raja@jimsrealestate.com.au. Our Facebook page is Jim's Real Estate out of Southeast Melbourne. Have a look, and look again. There are myriad ways to get in touch with myself, so just Google Peter Raja, and I'm sure a lot of the articles and publications will come up as well. So looking forward to having a chat with most of you, and look, if you need some expertise advice, just feel free to drop me a line. I'm more than happy to help, and it's a pleasure talking to you today, Faye.
Thank you, Peter. It was wonderful. This is Talking All Things Business. I'm Faye Waterman, and until next time, bye for now.